We got the two experts.
Hey, everybody. If anybody gets on here, I hope you can hear us over that fan.
Let us know if you can't hear us. Can you hear me now?
Let's see.
Well, let's introduce ourselves. What do you say?
That sounds good. Of course, you know me, Cherie Carpenter, and this is my sister-in-law, Carla Reeves.
Hi, guys.
She's joining me on my live stream tonight because we're going to be talking about a subject that both of us are pretty familiar with, and that is grief. Losing a loved one, whether it be a spouse, a parent, a child, or an animal, a dog, a cat, anything that's important to you. And I'm covering the Christian aspect of this because that's what has helped me through the almost 3.5 years since I lost my husband. So while I'm waiting for everybody to get on here, I'm going to talk a few minutes about James Cox and the hashtag I Am a Creator community that I joined up with a few months ago. When I found them, there it is.
See, there you
go. When I found James Cox, I was just kind of looking. Hold on a minute. There we go. When I stumbled across hashtag I Am a Creator, I was looking for some other videos. I just randomly start looking for videos of the night, and I come across James Cox, and where it was in bold letters and it said hashtag I Am a Creator caught my attention. So I went on there, and I didn't know what it was, and everybody kept telling me don't get involved with anything that is sub for sub, and I didn't know what he was, and I didn't want to ask stupid questions, so I just kept watching his videos.
No question is stupid, sis.
So I just kept, hey, Shares Life, how are you doing?
Hi,
if you weren't on here just a second ago, this is my sister-in-law, Carla Reeves.
Hi.
I'm going to have the link to her YouTube channel at the bottom of this when we're done.
I'm a Christian author,
and
I've written 2 books.
About what? No, you go ahead. Anything that you can say will help me. But I wanted to go into the discussion about
grief,
the stages. Trusting God through grief and the different stages that you go through. There's 5 stages of grief, and about what's appropriate to say to a widow or widower, what's not appropriate. And it don't even have to be a widow or a widower. It could be anybody that's lost an animal, a child. I don't think there would be a pain any worse than losing a child. And so I've got a lot of notes. I don't know how long I'm going to be on here.
Might be a couple hours, guys. Hey, Kentucky Ranger. Hey, everybody. Hi. I'm Carla, Cherie's sister-in-law.
Go ahead and talk for a minute while I'm sharing this.
I am a Christian author. I wrote The Shades of Grace. It's on Amazon.com, and I tell my Christian stories. My second book is Bruises from Within. It's not out yet, but it should be any time now. It's currently being published. It's about surviving domestic violence of 20 years, and I dissect my life as a Christian, and I dissect my life, what all the stages I went through. Now, all the stages I went through in that could be a little bit different, but it's to help people maybe understand why people stay in domestic violence, and that's what I wrote about. So I can't see what the screen says. I got my new glasses.
I'm going to look at it here in a second. You be talking, I'll look at the comments.
Oh, okay. So what do you want me to say, sis? Talk about
your book for a minute.
Anyway, I have a channel on here. If Kentucky Ranger can put my channel, is that okay to do, sis?
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
To put my channel, Kentucky Ranger will probably put my channel on here. Ain't he a moderator? Ain't.
Actually, I was going to make you and Dawn both moderators, and I ain't done it yet.
Okay. Well, I figured I would ask before I go promoting my book because I don't want to make anybody upset. Right, sis?
Yeah.
And we are both Christians, and we talk about, we're going to be talking about grief, what people go through, the inappropriate comments, and how you can just help somebody out in their grief I can't see what they're saying.
Donald said I can't. I'm not a mod. I just made you a mod, so.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do that, but okay.
I guessed at it. I just happened to find it.
Hey, are you a mod, Donald? Are you a mod, Kentucky Ranger? He's got a great channel, too. He does Mondays with Mom, and we all get together as a family and talk about stories of stuff. So is he a mod now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, there's the little ridge.
Good deal. Good deal.
You want the link to your book?
Yeah, sure. The first one. Sorry. Allergies.
Can you all hear us over that fan? Because it's hot back here. There's not a fan. There's not a ceiling fan or anything. We had to turn that fan off.
And it's pretty hot back here.
So just let us know if that gets too loud. I can walk out of the view for a minute.
Come here, Boom Bug. June Bug. Come here. Come here.
Anyway,
we're going to be talking about grief. And if y'all want to share with us some of the inappropriate comments people have made to you, meaning well, and maybe in the comments put what would help you for people to say or not to say. And we're just going to give our opinions, and right?
I wrote a book, just about putting notes. I may be all over the place. I didn't want to do that, but this is such a deep subject. It's a needful subject because if you've not lost somebody close to you yet, there'll be some time in your life that you will. Or you may know somebody that's going through bereavement right now, and you may not know what to say to them. And I had a lady not too long ago told me, and she didn't mean this hateful. She really didn't. Although at the time, I kind of was taken back by the comment, but she said, I don't want to talk to you because I don't know what to say to you, and you make me uncomfortable. The truth is, there's nothing that you can really say that's going to take that pain from a person's heart when they're going through, especially the early stages of grief. And so you've got the people that really, truly care for you. They don't know what to say. A lot of times they'll say inappropriate things, not realizing that they are. It's just things that have been said for centuries that people have just accepted because they don't know what else to say.
Such as, they're in a better place, honey. They're in a better place.
One of the first things that was said to me,
and that hurts,
right after my husband died, you should be happy for him. Well, because of that Christian side of me, I am happy for him. Because if you believe in the hereafter and heaven and hell, you know that somebody that's living for Christ is in a better place. So that part of you, you're comforted in that. But that still don't take the pain from your heart that you had to give up a person that you were sharing your life with.
She was growling.
It's Junebug. So right after I lost my husband, a pastor friend of mine from Illinois was worried about me. And Junebug, of all the times that you had to...
She's shining.
So he called me one night, and he was telling me about the 5 stages of grief. Well, the first thought I had was, well, that might be so. I didn't know that I was going to go through all 5 stages at the same time. And I found this chart. I don't know if you can see it. On this side is like a scale, a chart of the stages of grief, all in one nice, neat little chart. Over here is the reality of really how your emotions just jump all over the place, and that's where I was at. So later on in this, before I get done, I will tell you what happened to my husband and how it affected me, what I went through, what was said to me, what should have been done and what wasn't done, and how it affected me. And grief not only affects you emotionally, but it affects you physically. I've probably, in the 3.5 years, I've probably aged 10 years because it really takes a toll on you. And
it raises your blood pressure too,
yeah,
and your stress level. So after somebody dies that you love, whether it's your husband or your child, sometimes you may need to see a doctor for blood pressure issues
Mhm.
or even psychological issues, see a counselor, somebody to talk to. Because a lot of times family members, they don't know what to say, or maybe they say the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yeah.
I had a family member, she had lost a 13-month-old baby. The baby had heart surgery before they were due to take the baby home. And the baby was 8 months old when it had its second surgery. They left a clamp in the baby, and they didn't understand why the baby wasn't thriving. Like I say, the baby was 1 year old and 1 month. Well, they went back in to do surgery, and they couldn't get the baby's heart started again. And needless to say, my grandmother, which she was a great Christian lady, she said to my sister, maybe God took your baby so you and your mother can get back together as a family. And that really deeply affected my sister. She set up a shrine for her daughter. Now, not my twin sister, my older sister. She set up a shrine in her, whatever house she has. It was a painting of the baby and different things. And I mean, uh, until you've lost a baby, a lot of times you really don't know what to say. But I told my grandmother years later, after she told me why my sister wouldn't speak to her, and that was why. And I said, Granny, I think that was just the wrong thing. She says, well, you know what I mean. If she would make up with her mom, God might not have took her baby. And it just shocked me to the core that somebody could say that. Well, my sister's never been the same, and that was back in 1988. That she's never been the same. And she don't speak to a lot of us, and of course she's got a lot of other issues also, but I pray for her daily. And sometimes when somebody dies like that and a baby is I wouldn't know how to get over that, but losing a little baby, I would think would be one of the hardest griefs for a parent, whether it's a miscarriage, or something like that. That's difficult. But people would talk to her, and her psychiatrist even told her, well, you need to just get over this. Your baby's been dead this long. It's been this many years. You got to just get over this. And the thing of it was, my sister would not grieve her baby. She internalized a lot of it. And a lot of people, that's how they grieve. So no matter what way you grieve, whether it's a spouse or a dog or a cat, some people, they get out the pint of ice cream. Some people cry. And I don't think there's no wrong way to grieve. How do you feel, sis?
There's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's every journey is a personal journey. Everyone that's going on this grief journey, they're on this road. They didn't ask to be there, but they're on it. There's no getting off. I've had people tell me to move on. There is no moving on from grief.
You just have to deal with it the best you can.
The only way I can put this is like if you're on a long stretch of road, there's no exits. There's no way to turn around. You can't get off of it, and the only thing that you can do at that point is move forward. You can move forward, but you never move on because you always care for that person.
Yeah.
Even if you remarry, if you're a widow or a widower, and you remarry and you dearly love this new person in your life, and I thank God for the ones that's been able to do that, you still have those feelings for your spouse that passed away.
Your love doesn't die because they die.
Mm-hmm. And now, I've run into two different groups of people when I lost my husband. One group that I was talking about a minute ago was the group of people who they truly care for you, but they're awkward and they don't know what to say. And
they're standoffish.
Honestly, like I said, there's nothing that you can say that can take that pain from your heart. God is the only one that can mend that heart. And really, the best thing you can do is be supportive. Let them know that you're there. Let them know that you care. Let them know that you love them. Sometimes all they need is a hug. Don't say, I'm always going to be here for you. but then when you call them, you put them off, or you just walk away.
Or dismiss it.
Or dismiss. And don't ever compare your grief with another person's. I had a woman do this to me the other day. She compared, and there was another widow present when she was talking to us about this, comparing her grief that she felt in her divorce, that she thought that that was worse than losing a person through death. And that's absolutely not true. I don't think there could be anything worse than losing either a child. I think would be the worst, or a spouse, or you know, when you lose somebody in death, that's final. There's no getting them back. You'll never see them again until you leave this earth yourself. And I understand that she went through a lot when she was grieving her divorce, and I've been on both sides of that fence, so I understand that. But don't dismiss someone else's grief and compare your grief to theirs, because no two situations are the same.
You should embrace the person that's grieving, and sometimes just being there, listening to them vent, or just listening to them cry, or just hold them. Just being there sometimes helps out the most. And a lot of times I feel the reason, okay, my father, he was killed in a plane crash. He had a little ultralight airplane. And I never got closer. I never got to say goodbye, Daddy, or anything. And that still stays fresh in my heart. I mean, my mother died suddenly of a heart attack years later. But at the same time, it was so difficult. Even to this day, I'll have triggers. His birthday will trigger me, and I will get upset. Even though I was 29 and I'm 53 now, I still grieve my daddy. I love my daddy.
It never goes away.
No, it doesn't.
When you first lose somebody, it's like a tsunami, and it's just crashing in on you. But the longer that you're out in this journey, it's always there, but then it comes in waves. You may be fine for a few weeks, and then something will trigger it, and it'll just come crashing in on you again.
In my first book, I wrote a poem called Grief. And the way I wrote the poem out, it's in my book, The Shades of Grace, on Amazon.com. The grief, I wrote it as a hurricane. And I described, because I was living in Florida at the time, and I was, in my mind, when I was writing that, I was thinking about a hurricane, but also comparing the waves and the winds, the hail, the branches flying, the debris flying. I also equate that to grieving and a hurricane. And so I just wrote what I thought the family, the loved one, represented the island in this poem. And I write about the family staying together, praying in the grief. And I wrote all about the waves crashing and the winds whirling. And then the hurricane goes over, and there seems to be a bit of peace. And so I equate all of that metaphorically to grieving. And I think a lot of people go through just those mixture of emotions. Sometimes it's anger and rage, and sometimes it's just total sadness, and you get into despair, and you don't know how to get out of it.
Cher's Life on here said there are many triggers, and she says, oh my God, yes, I had the same thing happen to me. I said, well, at least in divorce, the person is alive still.
Yeah.
And then she says that she's not been able to remarry. I know a lot of widows and widowers have chosen to remarry, and I also know a lot of them who've chosen not to. I've chosen not to, and I'm happy for the ones who are able to. And my brother-in-law, who was married to my husband's sister, she passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, and he remarried a lady that they had known each other for years, since they were kids, I reckon. And she had lost her husband, and they remarried, they married each other after this, and they've been wonderful. They've been there for me, and where they both understand, and they were the ones who took me to the hospital and my daughter the night that my husband died. So, and they were there at the funeral, and they have just been wonderful. Yeah, shares life. I don't either. I don't have an issue with anybody that chooses to remarry, and I'm happy for them.
Yeah, because a lot of times, just moving on with someone else, it doesn't diminish their pain, but it helps them a little bit better. I don't know how to explain that, but I would think that that's one of the coping mechanisms of grieving, and some people don't, and that's okay too. Sometimes, like I had a family member. Okay, her husband was dying of cancer, and the brother made the brother Dave a deathbed promise. He says, Dave, I will take care of your wife when you die. So what that meant is, as soon as Dave died, his brother Vern married his widow. Well, the whole town, they were offended and they turned against her, and she was a good Christian lady. But what they didn't understand is, and she told a bunch of the biddies in the church that were gossiping about her, how scandalous it was for her and her new husband, the brother, to come to church to worship God. They turned her away, a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And she says, well, I'll have you know, my husband married me because he made my brother a promise to help me financially. This is basically a promise from a brother. And she says, and if you need to know, we've not consummated this marriage, but at the same time, people can turn their back on you. And this was a church, and I thought that was so tragic.
It is. It's really tragic. And unfortunately, some of the very people who you would think would back you and support you walk away, and some people that you wouldn't even think would be there are.
Yeah.
So, it just, and I've had people, because I've been in church for years. My husband and I, when we met in '98, we met through music, both of us musicians. So we were musicians on the road traveling with evangelists, and then at our home church, we were the musicians there I've been there now 12 years, and he's been gone almost 3.5. But I've had people want to group everybody in one category, and just because one or two people may be hateful, that don't put like everybody in church in a hateful category, because I've known sinner people who were better to me than a lot of people in church, but then at the same time I've had a lot of really good church-going people that have been good to me. So, people, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. And people are just people.
People, yeah.
People are just people. But and sometimes they most definitely say the wrong thing. And if you know someone grieving, just turn them on to this video, because I'm sure maybe Sheree and I both can help with maybe some comforting words. And however long somebody grieves, let them grieve however long they need to, because grieving has no timetable, in my opinion.
It don't.
Some people get over it and do well and move on, and other people, it takes a very long time. Now, if it is, okay, I'll give an example, like my sister. If it's affecting their everyday life, if depression is setting in so badly, and they're not, they're staying a shut in, they're shutting themselves off from people, maybe try to visit them, maybe take them a dinner or so. If you make a casserole, say, hey, I made extra, would you like some? And just start talking to them. You can really lift people up just by simply doing something as kind. Show them a little compassion. Even if you don't know what to say hey, Sister Sheree, I made this casserole and I'd like to share it with you. And you don't never know what will help another person. Or just go by visiting and ask them, hey, can I help you with your housework?
And something don't simple. Worry about trying to say something profound.
Yeah.
And I know it's uncomfortable. It's untelling. I've been to countless funerals before and since I lost my husband. And you don't know what to say a lot of times.
A lot of
But
times
sometimes
you don't.
all you got to do is say, I love you, I'm praying for you,
And I'm so
here.
sorry for your loss. That's what I normally say at funerals and stuff. And just like I had a situation come up when my mother passed, or my father passed away. He passed away first. And my dad had a lot of girlfriends. And I went up to a lot of them, which I recognized, and I said, hey, I understand you love my dad, but make sure you kind of sit in the back row and let's stay away from my mama and don't disrespect anybody. So sometimes you have to play it by ear and, as they say, wing it what you say. And I said, I knew you loved Daddy and stuff, and they were so saddened that my dad died, and they didn't realize my dad was still married to my mother. A few of those girlfriends, but I tried not to disrespect them because I didn't want to judge them because I look at it like this: to each their own. And my mom and dad, they had their problems, but they did stay together. But I didn't at the same time want anybody to miss a chance that loved my father. And
well, my husband's ex-wife came to his funeral.
Boy, that's a little bit. Ooh.
I went up to her. I was as nice to her as I could be, and I hugged her. I got along with her before he died, and I got along with her after he died. That's the best way to be.
I've seen some cat fights at funerals.
Thank you. I hope I pronounced this right because my glasses are awful. Fifi Ann, thank you so much for sharing this video. She said that she lost her grandpa 9 years ago and still cries.
Oh, God love you. Honey, if I was there, Fifi, I think it is, if I'm saying it right, I would give you a hug, honey, because loving and losing a grandfather, I know what you mean, because I've had dear grandparents to pass on, and you never forget them. But one thing I can say to you, when you have a grandparent, they're still right here in your heart. You're still right here. And that grandparent, always, you can carry your grandparent with you because you can remember stories they told or memories that you have. Like I have of my great-grandfather and my grandfather, and I carry them in my heart every day because I remember words of wisdom that they say. And
I hit the enter button. I didn't mean to. Thank you, Shares Live. I was going to say thank you, but I hit the enter button. Anyway, thank you.
But we can carry that person in our heart and in our head, in our memories, just like Cherie, JL. She carries him every day in her heart because she loved him so much. And just like if you have a grandparent or mom and dad, anybody that you have loved, even a little pet, you carry them every day in your heart because you love them.
I was 35, I think, when I had Anna. And up until then, my animals were my babies.
Yeah.
And I had a little cat. She got out one night when I wasn't home, and she got hit by a car. Didn't kill her instantly. And I was hoping that they could do something, and taking her to the vet. Had to keep her all day. And that evening they called me, and I went back over there, and they said that there wasn't nothing that they could do. And I mean, I'd had her a long time. She was my baby. I was crying my eyes out. And my grandmother looked at me so hateful and said,
sorry about
it's
that.
a sin to grieve for animals. And that's absolutely not true.
I've had people tell me that, well, animals don't feel no pain. They don't have a soul. Oh, yeah, they do. And they dream, too. If you look at animals, they do dream.
I love my animals.
Boy, I do.
Now.
Sometimes I love them more than humans.
But I found this article on Shipwrecked on the Shores of Grief. And I like what some of this says. I won't go through it all. I've got so many notes here, it's not funny. But it says, we have been taught to bury our feelings, replace the loss, grieve alone, time heals, and never love again. Sometimes time don't heal. Sometimes that wound of pain and grief is still just as fresh as if it was yesterday. It is. And then it goes on to say, would you consider this? Feel your feelings. Yeah. Don't cover them up. Embrace your feelings. Try to acknowledge your feelings that you're feeling. review your loss, grieve in the community. If you've got a grief share program in your community, that would be awesome. I don't have a grief share or any type of a widow or widower
Maybe that's
program.
We can start.
That'd be great. So I'm actually a member of several Facebook groups on widows and widowers. Late Night Widows and Widowers is one of them that I'm in. But if you can get with other people that's like-minded, that understand what you're going through. See, what originally, I was so frustrated because it was like nobody was acknowledging my pain. And I would try to talk about it, and I would get dismissed. And I've been told to move on, snap out of it. I tried to talk to this one person after I was 2 years into this, and got screamed at and told that it wasn't normal to still be grieving after 2 years. That's not true.
It's normal to grieve as long as you need to grieve. Your timetable is different from everybody else's. And if you need to grieve 20 years, so be it, you know? Right?
I like what the Bible says, where it says, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. That's in Romans 12:15. God is what truly brought me through this. If it had not been for God, I know I wouldn't be here, because right after this happened, I went about 6 months before I even laid down in a bed. I cried every day. I was crying day and night, and I was literally begging God to take me. And they're like, well, you had Anna, you had to be there for Anna. But, you know, when you're going through a traumatic experience
you're
like
by
that,
yourself. You're simply by yourself.
I just wanted out of here. I did.
Yeah, I remember that. You were going through a tough time. We were praying for you, and we didn't know what to say to you, sis. But we were here for you. And all I knew to say is, I love you, sis, and we're here for you. And we are.
I appreciate it. I love you
We
too.
are. Love you, sis.
Love my family. Kentucky Ranger. I'm going to have, is Donald able to put the link to yours and his channel on here since he's a mod? Will you put the links to your channel in the comments?
And I have a channel, and I also have a Facebook channel. Carla Reeves, spelled KarlaReeves.
But
I have a couple of channels.
But now there's been several things. God has just absolutely, His mercy and His comforter, His grace to get me through this. And you still have to go through it, and it still hurts, and there's no right and wrong way to grieve the loss of, a spouse, a child, a parent. I lost my dad 11 years ago. I've lost grandparents.
Has it been that long? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'll never forget, of course, J.L. died the morning of January the 31st, 2015, and it was unexpected. He got up at 2 o'clock in the morning and went to the bathroom, and I couldn't sleep that night. And he'd been sick. He had pneumonia and some other health issues, and I'd had him at the hospital on Thursday, and this was a Saturday morning. But it wasn't anything, I didn't think he was sick unto death. For sure, I thought he was going to come out of it, because they'd put him on an IV and they'd sent him home. And I was on the computer because I couldn't sleep, and when he went to the bathroom, I actually heard him taking his last breath. So by the time I got in there, he was already gone. I tried CPR, and he was gone. But 7 months before he died, I was on Facebook. I do not remember how I became friends with Russ Murphy on Facebook, because I had never heard of Russ Murphy. But somehow we ended up friends on Facebook. And
God guided you to him.
Absolutely. And he's written some books. He's got this book that he's written. I don't know if you can see this. It's called Not Alone, Finding the Love of Your Life. And I want to read what it says on the back of the book, just real quick. It says, on Sunday evening, June the 15th, 2014, Sarah Lynn, my wife and best friend of over 40 years, asked, sweetheart, what time is it? I looked at the clock. It's 10:15. Why do you want to know? Without any hesitation, she gave me her pretty smile and said, "Because this is the happiest moment of my entire life." We were not in a five-star hotel or resort. In fact, we were in Lubbock, Texas, in a small one-bedroom garage apartment belonging to some dear friends. And at that time, Russ and Sarah Lynn lived in Nashville. We had no television or internet. All we had was each other, some books, and my guitar. There was no way I could have imagined that this would be the last normal conversation we would ever have together, and there was no way to prepare myself for the horrors I would be facing just a few hours later. Now, Russ Murphy, years ago, I think he pastored a church, plus he was a public speaker. He's a songwriter who has won awards, a great musician, and just a great guy. And I was friends with him on Facebook. The night that his wife died, I just happened to be on Facebook, and I saw the frantic message come across that the paramedics were there and for everybody to pray that Sarah Lynn was unresponsive. And it come to find out she died in his arms that night from I think it was some type of a heart problem. They'd had her at the hospital earlier in the day, but they said she was fine, and they were visiting friends in Lubbock at the time. So several months after that, for those 7 months prior to JL dying, he started blogging a lot on Facebook. He'd write journaling of his journey going through grief, and all of just the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that he was going through, and he called it his Not Alone journey. And so I would actually get on there and, along with hundreds of other people, and try to encourage him and just trying to help him. And he would message me back, and so we kind of got to know each other on that level. So the night that JL died, and they had taken him out on the stretcher, I had actually got on Facebook because my computer was already on, and sent out, "Please everybody pray." And at that time I didn't know that he wasn't going to make it because they were still working on him all the way to the hospital. So Russ Murphy got a hold of me, and he wanted me to call him. So we had exchanged phone numbers, and through all of it, this great man of God, who did not know me personally, just through Facebook, took time out of his schedule and called me and talked to me. But what happened is, through all those Not Alone journals, that entries that he made, everybody, including myself, was encouraging him to make a book out of that. He had the knowledge of how to do that. He had the connections. He's a great author, and he had the right connections, and that's what this book is. And I will put the
You got to
link.
send me that.
I'll have to put the link. You can get this book through his ministry page called Russ Murphy Ministry on Facebook.
Do they have it on Amazon?
You know, I don't know. I've never checked,
We'll
but
check.
but anyway, he sent me that book and signed it and everything, and that is a great book. I mean, it's all his entries that he made through going through all that grief. And then the night before Sarah Lynn died, she had sent a friend request to a woman named Linda Huckabee, which they went to college with her 40-some years ago.
Wow.
And actually sang with her. And the night before she died, she had sent Linda a friend request on Facebook. So Linda had no idea that Sarah Lynn had passed away.
Oh.
So when she answered the friend request, she ended up finding out through that Sarah Lynn had died. And come to find out, she had never married, and just worked for God all those years. And she's a terrific singer and a wonderful person. And Russ and Linda got married, and now they're in Lubbock. They're youth ministers, I believe, at a church, a Baptist church in Lubbock. But this is a great book. I would recommend that book to anybody.
And sometimes God sends someone through a love interest or what have you to help you through your grief sometimes. but people I know get through grief differently. Everybody hit the thumbs up, hit the like, and the subscribe button.
And yeah, and then when this goes to video, leave me a comment and tweet this out, share it. I want people to know that your pain is
Our
pain. It's real. It's important. Don't let anybody dismiss your grief. Don't let them. Because no two people grieve the same. No two situations are the same. And then there's another thing and this is what I went through. There's simple grief, which is just normal grief. That it's in simple grief and complicated grief have the same symptoms, a lot of the same symptoms and stuff as.
Right.
But what happens with complicated grief is because 2 or 3 years into it, you're still having a hard time moving on, and you're still devastated by the loss.
What is some of the signs or some of the symptoms, some of the stages of grief?
I'm going to go through the 5 stages of grief. And another thing, too, these don't have to be, like, in order, because you're going to bounce back and forth.
Some of them you may not even have.
And, yeah, and some of them may be easier for you to get through than others.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let me make sure that it's 2. You have to excuse me.
A lot of times when I'm grieving my dad, I'll just start talking to the air and saying, "Daddy, I sure do miss you today." Or, "It's a beautiful day today. I bet you'd be flying your little ultralight today. I sure do miss you." And I find I just got my driver's license like 3 years ago. And because of my dyslexia, I think that slowed me down in learning to drive. And I know what he would say. The day that I got my driver's license, I passed it the first time. I passed the permit test 100%. I memorized the book. I mean, that's extreme, but if you know me, I did it. And I could just hear my dad in my head and in my heart saying, "Well, Carla Jean, it's about time, honey, but you got it."
Is that a message?
Yeah, that's from Donald.
Oh, okay.
It shows up.
Anyway, I'm sorry that we're bouncing back and forth with this. I think my mistake, I wrote too many notes. I've got a bad habit of that. But anyway, this list that I found on the stages of grief, I like what it says right here. It says, "Please keep in mind that everyone grieves differently. Some people will wear their emotions on their sleeve and be outwardly emotional. Others will experience their grief more internally and may not cry. You should try not judge how a person experiences their grief, as each person will experience it differently." That's true. I kind of bounce. Well, with me, I cry real easy. But when my emotions got dismissed a lot, I got to where my mom and Carla and Kentucky Ranger and my mom, and privately they saw me, but people say, "How are you doing?" and I just put on this smile and I'm okay, because
we knew you weren't.
And yeah, because I got to where I just didn't want to have to explain myself.
I'm reading like Kentucky Ranger keeps texting me. That's why the cricket. He's saying something about something.
Let's see. Hi, Nathaniel's Adventures. I hope I'm saying that.
We want to welcome everybody to the chat. We're talking about grief and the stages of grief. This is my sister-in-law, and I'm tag teaming on her channel today. I'm Carla Reeves, and we're just talking about the grief patterns, the grief emotions you go through, and things that are appropriate and inappropriate to say.
Before I forget this, I've got this in my notes somewhere. I don't know. When you are going through, especially if it's a spouse that you've lost, but any grief, if you can help it, if you've got time on your side not to do this, Don't make any life-altering decisions for at least 6 months.
Don't sell your house. Don't empty your bank account out. Don't, whatever it is. Maybe you can't handle looking at their picture. I know when my mother died, and I dearly loved my mother, I couldn't look at her picture for a while, so I had to put it away for a bit. And I guess that is one of the stages of grief, because I didn't want to deal with it. So if I didn't look at her picture, I wouldn't have to think about it. I wouldn't have to feel my emotions and deal with how I was feeling, because I miss my mother.
I went through the same thing about
Did you do that?
Yeah. Well, even my dad, do you remember?
Yeah.
Kentucky Ranger made a slideshow of pictures. I think you all took it to the funeral.
Yeah, we did.
And when they first showed it to me, I just broke down. Between that song, what's that song called?
Will You Miss Me?
No. That Hawaiian guy. I couldn't pronounce that man's name.
Don Ho?
No, not Don Ho.
Okay, Kentucky Ranger.
Donald, if you're still on here, put that man's name, because I can't pronounce it. But anyway.
Don Ho, ain't it?
No, it's not Don Ho.
I got him on my mind.
But I cried.
I'm sorry. That was inappropriate what I just did. I giggled.
No, that's okay. But and with JL, they wanted me to bring a picture of him up to the church, and hang on, he said. But they wanted me to bring a picture of JL, because we've got a shelf in the foyer part of our church with everybody's pictures on there that's passed away. It's been in the church.
Right.
Well, I took JL's picture, and I had it up there for a while, but that's the first thing I saw every time I walked into the church, and I found I had to bring it home.
Yeah.
Because what people didn't understand, especially since we were both of us, such an intricate part of the church, and the musicians, and the things that we did, you all can see that. I cannot pronounce it. Israel.
I have no clue. Don't ask me to read it.
Thanks, I love him, though. I love to hear him sing. That is a very touching song.
Don't ask me to pronounce it.
But what people didn't understand is every time I'd go into the church,
it would break you down and cry.
Well, actually, I went to church. I knew that that's where I needed to be. So Anna and I went the day after JL passed away, and it was a Sunday. And
plus, I think you watching him die, or having his difficulty before he died, I think that traumatized you more.
Oh, it was.
And you were flashing, having post-traumatic stress, and you can suffer that through somebody dying.
In this life. If you've never heard that song, they call him Oz. If you've not heard that song, you need to look it up on YouTube. That is a beautiful song, and Donald Kentucky Ranger did such an awesome job on that video.
Thank you, Ranger. He's my spouse, y'all. Kentucky Ranger is my other half.
Did he put your all's links on there yet?
I don't know. Kentucky Ranger, can you put our links on here? Mine and yours and everybody's.
But what happened is I went in, it was the day after he died, and I'll never forget this. I started to walk, because I'm the one that turns the board and everything on for the sound system. And I started to walk up towards the front of the church, and there sat his guitar where he had just played it the week before. His capo was sitting there, his picks were sitting there, and I lost it. If it had not been for my pastor coming back there in the office, I don't think I could have made it. But she's the one that come back there and talked to me.
I'll tell you something kind of funny happened at my dad's funeral. Like I say, it was sudden. Me and my twin sister, we were up there consoling each other, and we went up to his coffin, to show that we were sticking together as a family, as a little group up there. Well, I hugged my sister, and it just come across my brain, and talking about probably inappropriate, I whispered to her, "You remember our nicknames Daddy gave us?" And it was just one of those moments where, and sometimes giggling probably is inappropriate, but sometimes it's not. We were huddled like this, and I whispered in her ear, "You remember what Daddy's nickname for you was?" And it was Bucket Mouth for her, and mine was Dippy and Dizzy Blonde. And we started laughing, and then I whispered, "Do you remember Daddy's girlfriend's nickname?" And it was Shovel Butt. And there's a story behind that one, which she didn't know the story. But my dad could give everybody stupid nicknames that would put you in the floor laughing.
Hey,
But-
Kentucky girl.
Hey, Kentucky girl.
If I'm missing anybody's comments, I'm sorry, they're kind of going by fast, but we were trying to get through all of this, and I know I'm bouncing around a lot.
We both are. It's
But
okay.
Anyway, the very first stage of grief that they've got written is denial and isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, when I was going through all of that, we didn't have insurance, and at the time, he was the only income we had. I was devastated. I was scared. I'll never forget that ride to the funeral home when I knew I had to get all of that.
Yeah, straightened out. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's difficult in itself.
I
mean,
literally, I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this. Have you ever been so stressed or scared or that you shake from the inside out?
Yeah.
That's what I was doing in the backseat of my brother-in-law's car because I didn't know what to expect. The first thing that I thought they were going to do was say, well, we can't do anything unless you've got all this money up front.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Fear races through your mind like a wildfire.
Mm-hmm. And so thank God for Toll Funeral Home in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. They were so wonderful. I was sitting there, and a minister friend of mine, Lovell Stevens, and his wife were there. My brother-in-law, Herman Chambers, and his wife, Judy, were there. And
it's just so surreal, like you're in a dream, but you're awake.
It's almost like you're in denial, and it's almost like you're in shock. I guess you're in shock.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy's got this itemized list, and he's writing all this stuff down as we were going through, who's going to do what and who's going to preach it and all this stuff, and what all we were going to do. And I seen him marking this paper, and I knew what that paper was because beside everything on that paper was prices and stuff. And
that don't scare you to death.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God. And so finally I spoke up and I said something about it, and he looked at me and he says, don't worry about it. We will work with you. That's the least of your worries right now. And when he said that, it's like a load just lifted off of me. There's a woman that I follow on YouTube. She's a funeral director, has been for 16 years, has been in the funeral industry for 23 years. Her name is Carrie Northey. She does videos on just the funeral industry in general and what to expect, questions to ask that you wouldn't even think. And I wish that I had been following her then. And I'm going to put her link on this video when it's over. And then there's another woman. Now, she's more lighthearted, and she's a mortician and has been for years, and she's out of L.A. And her channel name, I think her name is Caitlin, but her channel name is Ask a Mortician. And she's real informative too, but she's really lighthearted. She puts a lot of comedy in her videos and just I love to watch her.
I got one for you on that. When I was in my 20s, I worked at a shrimp company, a shrimp factory. And they had a book on the table, The Joys of Embalming. Well, curiosity got the cat here. And if you're going to guess, I opened up that book and it had pictures. Won't do that again. There's some things you should never know.
I'm going to kill the cat.
Yeah.
A friend of mine used to say, but satisfaction brought it back.
Well, my curiosity got killed that day. Curiosity killed my cat, honey, because I didn't pick up that book again. So, and see, I've got to be careful on YouTube because I tend to go to the dark side, and I shouldn't. And next thing I know, it's popping up weird stuff, and it's like, oh, that's like, oh, I gotta stop that. I don't know what it is about YouTube. I'm getting off subject, kind of off subject. But if you ever see a book at the lunchroom table says "Enjoys embalming," do not pick it up. Don't. You will be sorry. It's stuff you cannot unsee. And that's one time I wish to goodness I needed glasses because this one guy, his head was like somebody kicked it in like a football.
Oh dear.
And I mean, it's like, and then the next picture, they got stuff that'll blow that back up, and it's like, oh, I'm putting this book down. Curiosity done killing me again.
Did I ever tell you about Jail getting locked in the embalming room?
Oh
Lord! He was a builder for 40-some years, and he actually, I think back in the 70s, had remodeled Tall Funeral Home, the one where I had his funeral.
That would be my nightmare.
And they didn't know he was still in there. And that woman that did the embalming at the time had been working on 3 people. And so earlier that day, she was kind of giving him a tour of the place, and he remembered seeing this little teeny red light on the wall next to a door. But what happened is everybody left him. He was still working. So when he comes down there, he's like, it's just pitch dark because there's no windows or anything down there. And he remembered that little red light that he'd seen earlier that day. And he said that he started to go through there trying to feel around to get to that light, and he put his hand on somebody's cold, dead leg. He said he bolted across that room and hit that door a fly.
I would have died. Y'all would have had 2 extra ones in there.
But,
we're getting off the subject, but kind of.
But when I was going through the funeral, I remember Lovell told me I wanted to sing and speak at my own husband's funeral. I just felt a need to do that because music was such a big part of our life. He said, you'll never do it. But I'm thinking, I never said this, but I thought this in my mind. I can't, but me and Jesus can.
There you go.
But I think you're on autopilot. When you're going through the preparation of the funeral and you're going through the visitation and you're having to shake hands with everybody and you're going through all of that. And with us, some people have the visitation and the funeral on the same day. I had mine on 2 different nights. And so really, until the funeral's done and everybody goes home, that's when this reality starts setting in.
It hits you.
But you're on autopilot, and because nobody could understand how I was able to get up there and speak and sing and didn't completely fall apart. And I think at that time
I was amazed.
I was probably still in denial. You know, it's like sometimes, I knew what was going on, but I didn't want to accept it.
Sometimes denial does help you coast through it because it's very difficult at a funeral. And I had to give my mother's eulogy, and I didn't know what to say. My older sister, she wanted to, but the thing that she had written out as, well, she felt because she was the eldest sister, I was the middle sister, and my twin sister, she absolutely didn't want to do it. So it kind of got sprung on me, and I didn't know what to say. And I said a prayer as the song I Can Only Imagine was playing. That was one of the songs we picked out. And I said, God, what do I say at my mother's funeral? We had our ups and our downs, and my mother was mentally ill, and she mistreated us quite a bit. She abused us. But I forgave her because she gave life to us. And this is what I said. I said, what do you say to a woman that carried you for 8 months next to her heart, carried your twin sister a heartbeat away that was beside you as your mother carried you for 8 months? We were early babies. We were preemies. And I said, all I can say, and I looked around at everybody, is aloha. Aloha means hello and goodbye. And I said, I'm saying aloha to my mother because I know I will see her again. So today it's aloha, goodbye, but tomorrow it'll be aloha because I'll see you again.
That's good.
And that just come off the top of my head, as I always say. Because I had never given a eulogy. And then I went into talking about my mother, how she had the dream of becoming a beautician. And my mother was the type of mother, she told you one time to sit still, like if she was rolling your hair. And all you ladies and anybody that's had a perm or anything done to your hair, you know it's a tedious process. You got to sit there forever. And my mother, she was rolling my hair, and she was learning to do different hairstyles. Trust me, we got pixie cuts, we got shag cuts, we got all the latest haircuts because my mom did it in hair colors too, some different colors. And she yank one of the rollers, and she says, I said, be still. And she had hit the top of the roller, and it's like, we didn't even move. From that point on, it just took one time, and my mom would rip the roller with your hair in it. I said, sit still. So I told a funny story, and I said, God, I can't say anything bad about my mother because this is her day of peace. And so that's what I did is I just stuck to something kind of comical, made everybody chuckle. But at the same time, I wanted to remember her with reverence. And I didn't want to remember the painful years because I lived to see my mother get healed. The last 3 years of her life, she was healed. God healed her, and she remembered who I was. There would be times that she wouldn't remember me. And she wasn't very old when she passed. She was 69. So it was a difficult thing. I still haven't been back up there to the place where my mother is buried or my father. It's just difficult still for me. And I guess
That's
it's one of those
understandable.
denial things, I guess you could call it. But I still can't go up there and see her name on the tombstone and my dad's name. I can't do it. It's difficult. I keep them alive every day, but I keep that denial going in my heart. That's how I deal with it. And because I don't want to acknowledge that. But in my heart, I know they're both gone.
There's no right way and wrong way to deal with it, and there's no timetable, and people shouldn't try to put a timetable on it.
And what gets me is I'll have family members that says, Carla Jean, why don't you go up there and put flowers on your mom and dad's grave? That's so disrespectful. No, it's really not because I just can't do it. Can't do it. And my mother's been dead since, I believe, 2014. And I can't do it.
That's understandable. And, there was months before I was able to bring myself to go see J.L.'s grave. And
it's difficult.
I went by myself because I knew I would break down, and I did.
Yeah.
But I was by myself, so I just, I stood there, talked to him, and cried it out.
Yeah.
And emotional pain like that it's undescribable.
Yeah, because now see, I have been to my father's gravestone, but when my mother died, also, it was years later. It's to me to sit up there and to put flowers up there. I can't do it because it will make me have to acknowledge they're both gone, and I know they're both gone, but it's something that's still, even after all these years, it's difficult for me to deal with. And it's hard to deal with. I will one day, and I know that's probably disrespectful in a lot of people's eyes. Just like I can't go to my grandmother's grave. I dearly love her. Of course, the cemetery she's in is so huge. I don't know if I could find her. So so I know that's probably my excuse, but at the same time, that's another real difficult one.
Nobody knows how you feel but you. Nobody knows how you feel but you, and you have to deal with.
Well, you met Granny. She was a hoot. She was. She was a good, godly lady. She was a hoot.
But denial is a common mechanism, a common defense mechanism. And I can't talk. Denial is a common defense mechanism that buffers the immediate shock of the loss, numbing us to our emotions.
That's exactly
and that's exactly what denial is. Now, right after I went through, like I said, when that minister called me and was telling me about these stages of grief, and I told him that I was going through all of them at the same time, I literally was. Anger is number 2 on the list. Now, people will look at you funny, like if you say, because you can be angry at anything, an inanimate object, angry at the person who just left you, and fear can cause anger. Like I said, when Jay died, I had a mortgage to pay for, I had utility bills, all these other. I started getting bombarded with hospital medical bills.
Did you go through panic attacks?
Yes, definitely.
I started having panic attacks when my mother died.
And my my brother-in-law's wife, Judy. Well, my brother-in-law drove us, and she went with me to the Social Security office to try to get all this stuff lined out and for me to get widow's benefits. So when I went in there, I guess her eyes got that big because she wasn't expecting this response. But this is what anger and grief and just trauma can do.
Mm-hmm.
And when that man was trying to tell me, well, you're going to have to go through all this process, and in my mind, I'm thinking, how am I going to live?
Yeah.
I didn't have no means to live at the moment.
Yeah, no money saved up in the savings
And so just
account.
out of anger and frustration and just all this other emotions, I yelled out. Yeah, it's just pain, emotional pain. I yelled out, that JL said, I wished I could just go up there to that cemetery and dig him up and whoop him up one side of that hill, down the other.
I can hear you say that. But
That
you
man,
get so upset that it.
and
you
I loved
like
him. Yeah, I love JL. I'd give anything to have him back. I would. And JL knew I loved him, and he loved me.
We knew it too.
But
we knew it too.
You know, Judy, she sometimes she laughs and brings that up. And that man at the Social Security office, he didn't know what to do with me. I mean, I was literally having a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
In the Social Security office. So then I went through all of that, and then
that's a lot to have to deal
with.
That is.
Well, I left out something. Just 6 months before JL died, I was really close to his daughter Joy, Melissa Joy. Had been really close to her from 1998, and she dropped dead in a bathroom of the place she was staying just 6 months before JL did. And because she had gotten on drugs, she used to be a nurse. She was a really good nurse. Had 2 little boys that I adored. I just idolized them little kids. Was at the hospital when both of them were born. Well, she had got on drugs because of a traumatic situation in her life. And so social services had taken the little boys away. And it traumatized me and JL. We kept hoping that Joy would come out of this and would get the little kids back and Joy would straighten up. And, you know, as anybody would, if you know of anybody that's battling addiction, it's something, it's tough. And people, and, you know, a lot of people, they're so quick to judge somebody, an addict, whether it be an alcoholic, a drug addict, or whatever, not knowing the situation that caused them to be there.
Yeah.
So 6 months before my husband died, he was out out in the yard mowing. Had just got done, come up on the porch and got a call from this woman that Joy was staying with, and she just blurted it out, Joy's death.
Oh, geez.
She called him, I guess, before she even called the police.
And
I'll never forget the look on his face. I saw the life go out of him at that point. So I got in the car and I drove him down there, and by that time the police were putting the tape around the place, and the coroner was already up there. And I'd never met the coroner at that time. And I won't say his name because it was not a pleasant experience. It's not the current Montgomery County coroner. It was a different one. But so I went up there and I told the sheriff's deputy who I was and that my husband was down there. And so he come down there and told him he was sorry for his loss, that there was a body up there, somebody had died, and took his cell number down. And in the meantime, we were still trying to get a hold of Joy's mom because she was working at the nursing home. So I saw the coroner coming up the street because he didn't have his coroner's vehicle. For whatever reason, he came up there in just a regular vehicle. So he had to go back to his funeral home and get his vehicle to come back up and get the body.
Right.
So the detective, or the sheriff's deputy, took his phone number down. So a few minutes later, this coroner calls my husband. And now this is partly what caused my husband to leave here. Like I said, grief and devastation and traumatic situations can affect you not only emotionally, but physically.
Right.
But that man called my husband and said to him, "Where do you want me to take the body and who's paying for it?"
Wow.
And the reason that I'm saying this is I hope and pray that none of you that see this video ever has to face this. My husband, the look on his face, I was so heartbroken for him and I didn't know what to do.
Hey, Kenneth. Hey.
Is Kenneth a fam on here?
Uh-huh.
Hello.
Hey,
How are
Kenneth.
you doing?
Thank
Good
you
to
for
see
joining
you.
us.
Appreciate that. We're all over the place with this. I've completely left my notes.
You're all good, sis.
But
Carla Reeves and Sheree,
but
sisters.
But that the coroner told my husband, said we don't have money. And he says, well, even if a child lives to be 99 years old, the parent's still responsible or something to that effect. So we went over to the funeral home where this man's funeral home was at. Then, I don't mean to bring up anything gross, but you can come to expect anything when you're going through something.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there with my husband and his ex-wife, Joy's mom, and all he could think about, this man, was the money.
And all about the money.
Thank God, Joy's mom, Mary, happened to have enough money in a savings account to have her cremated. So we never got a chance to say goodbye. We never had a funeral.
Wow.
And then, on
That's
top of
devastating.
everything, he tells my husband and his ex-wife, said, I've got to ask your permission to do something. Said, the flies were already blowing her, and I'm going to get gross, but, this is important. He said, the flies have already blowed her, and if I don't spray this stuff in her mouth and in her nose, maggots are going to be coming out of her in the next few hours. And I'm sitting there thinking, too much information? Did you really have...
TMI.
Yeah. So, anyway, the reason that I brought all this up...
I would say, just spray the full stuff and shut up.
Yeah. So, the reason that
was inappropriate.
The reason I brought all this up is, in the meantime, after all of this happened, and then my husband just started getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And my pastor told me, because he would call my pastor and talk to her a lot, and he was just devastated. He gave up.
I think he did.
In the meantime, before my husband died, they had an election, and that coroner got voted out. And the guy that they've got in there now is just awesome. And
is it Jimmy?
Jimmy Adams. I just love him to death.
Oh, I went to school with his little brother, little Billy.
He's awesome, and he's a funeral director. He works for Tall Funeral Home.
And he's so compassionate.
Whenever he is. And so the night that my husband died, and they called me back and told me he didn't make it and all that stuff, and then they had to call the coroner. So I'm still like in shock. So when he first come in, I didn't recognize it was Jimmy. In my mind, I was still thinking that it was this other guy, and I'm not going to mention his name.
You were bracing yourself for that.
And Herman, my brother-in-law, was sitting there, and I was like bawling and just shaking, and Jimmy'd come in there to talk to me, and all I kept saying to Herman, I don't want him cremated. I don't want him cremated. I don't know what to do. I don't want him cremated, because I thought I was talking to Kaufman.
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry.
You dropped a name.
Anyway.
Well, we won't tell where we're from. It's all good, sis. It's all good.
Anyway, then
it's all good.
And about 3 minutes after this conversation, it dawned on me that wasn't who I was talking to. So anyway, my brother-in-law looked at me and told me, have them to take him to Tall because they will work with you. And they did. But in the meantime, I had to sell my home. I had to, and I loved that place.
Oh, yeah.
And going through grief and everything. And that's why I say, if you're going through something, if you can avoid it, don't make any life-altering decisions for at least 6 months. I panicked is what I did.
Yeah, I think you did.
I literally panicked. And then, moved in with my mom, which has turned out good because she needed somebody, and we've been able to help each other. But after and get this, when I called the real estate agency, I knew the woman that owned it, and so she come out and talked to me. My mom went with me, and they didn't even have a chance to put the sign up.
Wow.
This guy from up in Ohio, I believe it was, come and bought the house in a week.
Talking about miracles?
Yeah, and I think it was just meant for me to leave there. But at the time, now I'm grieving the loss of my husband. I'm still grieving the loss of Joy. I'm grieving the loss of these 2 kids that I know that I'll never see again, because once Joy died, they've I don't even know where they're at. And now, on top of everything, I'm grieving my house.
Yeah.
So when I say that God brought me through all of this, I'm serious. literally God has brought me through all of this. That's a lot of grief.
Yes, it is.
And so anger is the next on the list. And remember, there's no timetable on it. There's no right way and wrong way. Don't let anybody. I don't remember if did I mention don't compare your grief?
Yes.
Did I mention that?
Yes.
Some people might not have been on here. I had a lady the other day tried to compare her grief of being divorced, trying to make it sound more intense than the grief of losing somebody.
That's dismissive when somebody does that.
Don't be dismissive of somebody's grief. If you've got intense grief over whatever, don't mean that your grief is more important and theirs is less important. Don't compare grief. The person who's grieving don't want to hear it, and it just makes you sound
like a jerk.
Yeah.
Well, you think your grieving is bad? I went through it, and that's totally inappropriate. You just hug the person, tell them you love them, you're praying for them, or sometimes just sit there and listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, sis, I'm here for you anytime you want to talk. I did a little skit there, y'all.
I'll tell you another thing that I was angry at. I was trying to...
Was you angry at God?
You know, it's funny. I don't think I ever did really get angry at God, but I was angry at the hospital.
Yeah.
I was angry at myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what if I shoulda, woulda, coulda?
Yeah. You what if yourself to pieces.
And
it doesn't help.
What if I'd have took him someplace different?
Yeah.
What if I would have went and talked to the doctor? Don't let him out of here. If you do, he's going to go home and die. Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But what if it was his time?
Yeah. And I really believe now that there's almost 3.5 years has passed, that things have just fell into place. And we all have a time that we're going to leave.
For you, sis.
Yeah. And
I believe that.
And because of the way that things have happened. And another thing, too, we were musicians and played side by side. About 6 years before he died, he started working with my daughter and teaching her the guitar. And so, but she wouldn't let us plug her in. She wouldn't. She started singing. My pastor encouraged her to sing, but she was
shy,
real shy. But in fact, the day after my husband passed away, and we went to church, she didn't want to pick up his guitar. See, she'd been just playing an acoustic guitar, which you can't hear an acoustic instrument all over all of those electric, drums and electric guitars and stuff. But she was learning. I didn't realize how much she was learning because she wouldn't even let anybody see her practice.
You need to do a live stream, you and her singing together and playing.
Yeah.
That would be good.
I've been trying to talk her into it. I'll get you to help us because she's bad for it. But the day after he died, we went to church and she was crying. And she took her acoustic guitar like she always did, and his electric guitar was sitting there. And I went up and I prayed for her. After my pastor come back and got me straightened out and helped me, and then I went up there and prayed for her. So I was standing there next to my pastor, and I looked back, and she put her acoustic guitar down, picked his electric guitar up, and she's been playing it ever since.
She plays awesome.
And I can shut my eyes and literally hear his playing in her.
Yeah.
So it just come a time for him to leave here. But still, for people to say, God needed another angel, you ought to be happy for them.
And here you think you're trying to be kind, but at the same time, the person that's going through the grief is hearing something else. And a lot of times, it's not a good message. Mm-mm. Because I know I've been guilty of saying, well, God needed another. I have said that myself. And to those that I've hurt, I'm truly sorry for saying that.
We all have. I'm guilty of it myself.
My mouth.
I've done it untelling. Because when I married my husband in '98, he was raised and grew up in the Montgomery County area most of his life. So he knew a lot of people, plus where he was a builder. And in fact, he was the supervisor on the jobs when they built the big malls in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
He was a supervisor, so he knows a lot of people. So course, when you start getting age on you, people that you've grown up with all your life, they start dying. And so we started going to a lot of funerals.
And even at the age of 53, it's difficult for me to deal with. Daddy put up the Channel 62 tower.
Really?
The old one.
Her dad used to put up towers.
And they would show him on the news, and he'd be way up in the air putting the old towers, the towers up. And I think he did one of the other channels. Of course, it was Channel 62. Now it's Channel 36. But Daddy put some of those old towers up. He even helped with the Radio Shack tower in Mount Sterling.
Really?
That Zach, his best friend, and I'm sure the ones at WMST still remembers Daddy. Buttons, one of the announcers, one of the directors. I'd say he still remembers my dad.
Allergies.
Yeah, boy.
We probably went over an hour, but that's okay.
I can't see how many's in here.
An hour and 20 minutes. I don't think anybody is right now, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Because it'll still go to... This is a deep subject.
Yeah.
It
but
really
if you want to, we can do a part 2 also.
Yeah, we can do that.
And then start talking about the rest of them.
Yeah, but what I want to do, because we've already went longer than I meant to, I'm sorry. I wanted to go through the rest of the stages of grief, but I do want to share this before we get off of here. I'm not going to read all of this, but in Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, for everything there is a season, and that is so true.
That is true. I found that to be very comforting just to hear that one.
There's going to be an appointed time when we all have to leave here. Some of us sooner than others. There's graves from infants up to 100-and-some-year-old graves, in cemeteries, and we just don't know. But so when we go through grief, it's just a complicated weave of emotions.
It really is.
And you just have to somehow get through them. God has been my comfort. But in 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, I love this, because this is what has actually helped me. Blessed be God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and the God of all comfort. Verse 4, who comforteth us in all our tribulation, that we may be able to comfort them which are in any trouble, by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. Shortly, not too long after my husband died, I think I'd mentioned him earlier, Lovell Stevens is an evangelist, and at that time he had a ministry team called the OLE, Old Stump Kickers, and it was Lovell Stevens, Jimmy Dalton, and John Dalton, his son. And all three of them were evangelists, plus they had a gospel band. And they lost their bass player, and they asked me if I would travel with them and play the bass. And which really helped me a lot, because it helped me to get out, and it forced me, because I found out when this first happened, I left this out. I could be in a room full of people, there could be 100 people, and I felt so isolated. It's almost like time stands still.
So alone.
It's almost like it's in slow motion, and you see couples interacting, and they're interacting with each other and their kids, and you just feel so alone. So when I started to get out and travel with the Stump Kickers, Lovell had asked me to testify, and he found out through my testimonies that I was helping other widows. And see, before, years ago, when I used to travel with different evangelists, I would testify, and it was on the subject of depression, because I had suffered with depression most of my life. So at that time, I was helping people going through that, anxiety, depression, panic attacks.
Right.
But then I got to traveling with the Stump Kickers, and Lovell came up to me one day, and he said, did you notice that all these widows are following you around? And I said, yeah. And what it was is I wasn't dismissing their pain. They knew that I could relate to what they were going through. And sometimes I would just hug them. And they just wanted somebody to acknowledge what they were going through.
Yeah.
So that's where this scripture He comforts us, and so we're able to comfort them.
Right.
So what I did is I took the pain that I was going through, I turned it around, and it really helped me to deal with it by helping other people.
You turned your pain into love and compassion for your fellow sisters.
And like Carla said, we'll probably do a part 2 because I'm so sorry I didn't need to be on here.
Don't apologize. I'm sure we're helping somebody out there.
But
because this is a subject that is really taboo. It's one of the subjects that a lot of people don't know how to address, or they simply address it wrong and maybe misunderstand. Some people, really may need this little bit of encouragement, hope, compassion, because it is a difficult subject.
And nobody wants to touch on it because it's uncomfortable.
They tippy-toe around it,
Well, when somebody is suffering, it's just like somebody that's going through cancer. My dad died of cancer.
It's hard to watch.
And it's hard to watch. And there's nothing you can do. They're going through this. And sometimes you just don't know what to say, but
you really
sometimes
don't. I know a lot
there's
of
nothing
times
you
I
can
did.
say.
I didn't know what to say to Pops because I saw him, and it blew my mind. We were trying to talk to him about God, and he looked at me and says, "The miracle come from the doctors, not God." And I said, "Oh, Pops, please don't say that." And he just, I think he probably changed his mind on the last countdown, the last couple of days. But it's really difficult, even if you're a caretaker of somebody that is dying, that knows, they're in hospice care. And that's another thing. I've been to meetings of the caretakers. We have it in Stanton. I don't know what they're called, but a dear friend of mine and my publisher, she says, "Carla, would you like to go with me?" Because she was a caretaker of her husband. And they got together and they met with a bunch of ladies and gentlemen who were caretakers of those terminally ill. And one lady got up and she says, "I love my husband dearly, but it's all I can do to go through this." And a lot of people don't understand the compassion a caretaker has, whether it's a husband, a wife, a daughter, a son, a cousin, or just someone that's been paid. It's emotionally devastating.
It is.
Anyway, I got on another subject,
but
it's similar.
We just wanted to get on here and talk and let people know that
we're here.
This is real. Yeah, if you need us to pray for you, just when this goes to a video, put your comments in here, and I'll just rename this part 1 because I honestly did not mean to be on here this long. Hello, Maddie Draco.
Hi, Maddie. We appreciate you being on here. We're talking about grief.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We've been talking about grief and what is appropriate to say, what's not appropriate, how to just be there as a friend or relative of somebody that's going through grief, and about the emotional and physical, what's the word on
stages? I guess
stages.
Stages.
What it does to you. Just like me, and I talked to a lot of widows that's in those widows groups that I'm on, and every single one of them said that it has physically aged them.
Yeah.
Because I put a picture of me on one of them one night, and I said, "This is what this has done to me," and and what I had done, I put like a picture of me from the early '90s and what I look like now. And I couldn't believe how many people said, this has really aged me. And it does.
It does. It really does.
It takes a toll on you. And we're going to do a part 2 because I didn't get through everything, but that's all right. But just remember one thing. In Psalms 35, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. That is so true.
Yes. You're not alone.
You're always going to have that. Grief is always going to be just under the surface. Even if you remarry, don't mean that you have to quit loving your spouse that you lost.
Right.
And the grief is always going to be there. But what happens is over time, it don't come in like just a total tsunami. It comes in waves.
Right.
And but what I went through, and I'll cover that the next time, is I went through complicated grief. My grief went beyond just simple grief.
Yeah.
Because it was
I
hard
think you
for
were
me to
having
move.
panic attacks on top of it.
Oh, and that's another thing. I won't cover that now because it's kind of detailed too, but the next one that we do, I want to get into widow's brain. I'd never heard that term before this happened to me, and until I experienced it, I never would have imagined that would have happened to me. But I had got to the point where I honestly, to goodness, thought I had Alzheimer's. And I even thought I had a stroke because my memory was getting so bad.
Yeah, stress does a lot of crazy things to you. It makes it feel like your brain is eggs and they're being scrambled up because you forget things. Somebody can say something to you and you totally forget. And at the same time, you're still grieving, and it's also surreal.
Yeah.
I've not lost a husband. I love you, Kentucky Rangers. But I've dealt with grief in my family. So no matter what the grief is in your life, know that you're not alone. You can even reach out to us if you need prayers, because we're both Christian ladies and sister-in-laws.
And try, when you're going through something like that, your first reaction is you want to be alone.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be around anybody. Yeah. But sometimes that can be the worst thing you can do.
Yeah,
and if
to isolate yourself.
Herman and Judy Chambers, I thank God for them, because a lot of times when I was here, they would literally, they would come over and get me and take me with them places.
Yeah.
And because they knew because where they had both lost spouses, they knew it wasn't with me just sitting there.
Yeah, because it's like you get in a funk and you like, I just want to stay in this time frame, and I don't want the days to go on. I don't want the time to go on. I just want to be stuck. And you wind up getting stuck.
You do.
You wind up getting stuck.
So I think on the part 2, we'll cover the rest of the stages of grief, because I think we left out a couple, and the widow's brain and what that does to you, and about complicated grief. And
you want to start doing this on Tuesdays? We'll call it Tuesdays.
Okay.
Talking about grief. Hey, I'll come over if y'all want me to.
That'd be good.
And we'll tag team it and talk about grief and some of the emotional things that we have gone through as grieving sisters, grieving widow.
Yeah. And there's different types of grief.
Yeah.
And we just need to care and love each other.
More compassion for one another. And not be judgmental, just like Dorothy, she moved on with her husband's brother, and that was, I mentioned a little bit of that earlier. The church had turned their back because they felt like that was so scandalous. But all that was a brother honoring the brother on his deathbed, saying, I will financially and marry her to take care of her. And everybody thought, oh, my goodness, just a week or so after she buried her husband, she married the brother. And
I've known a lot of people who have done that.
Sometimes you can't judge the book by the cover.
No.
Why not walk up and say, well, how come you married the brother? I mean, if you got questions like that, ask. Because a lot of times people make promises, like on the deathbed, because she didn't have any income. She had 6 children, and of course she was in her 50s and 60s. And when her husband passed away of cancer, the brother promised the other brother, I will take care of your wife, and he did till he died. But everybody shunned her in that small church that really should have wrapped their arms around her and still embraced her, and maybe asked questions later of, hey, how can I help you? Bring over some chicken soup or soup beans, or we're just country folks. Bring over something to eat and say, here, honey, I haven't seen you in church, and are you doing okay?
Yeah, you need to be proactive when you know that somebody's going through something, because you never know.
It's difficult.
Just the smallest little act of kindness can go a long way.
Yeah, and it can change a person's life. I mean, just be kind. It's easier to be kind.
It is easier to be kind.
And compassionate. Compassionate will follow kindness and love, and it does.
Yeah, I had a woman in a church up in Ohio this is after I testified about love and forgiveness, and I don't remember what all I said, but after church, she come running up to me and just grabbed me and was crying and wouldn't let go. And come to find out, she'd been abused. And pretty bad.
Yeah.
And, you know, people, they just want to know that somebody cares.
Yeah, that they're not by themselves, whether they're grieving for a spouse or dog or cat even.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sis, I think this has been a good live stream.
Sorry we've talked your ears off, but I was all over the place with these notes. I was taking these notes down. Anna can tell you I'm bad about, I write a book. Yeah.
You're all right, sis.
But next time, well, I'm just going to rename this Part 1.
Part 1 and Part 2?
Yeah, and I'll get to the rest of this and the widow's brain and the rest of the stages of grief. And just remember that you're not alone. We love you. God loves you.
We love you.
And just know that you're important.
Yes, we love you.
Mm-hmm.
And my message to you would be, God loves you. We're here for you. I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, Carla Reeves. They'll put a link. Kentucky Ranger, can you put a link down again for me? Appreciate that. That's my husband, Kentucky Ranger, her brother. And we do Mondays with Mom, too. So check his channel out. We'll check everybody's channel out. And we'll be talking more about this subject.
I thank God for Kentucky Ranger doing the Mondays with Mom all them months ago. When he started doing it, it was just mostly just my mom was on the video and talking about her life, and I refused. I did not want no part of being in that video. That's funny.
It's my reminder message. It's telling me, don't forget to water the orange tree. That's my grandmother's orange tree.
But we slowly started evolving into
family.
Him getting me and Carla and Anna and all of us getting in the video. And
so check some of those videos
out. So
I've
just gotten a little bit more comfortable, and and then he was encouraging me to do live streams, which the very first one I did, it was a disaster.
Oh, you should see mine. I was all over the place with some of mine. I've got one making fudge. Mine's Carla Reeves. You can put the link up, Ranger. I appreciate it.
And I'll have it in the description. And I want to put Carrie Northey. I told her that I was going to put her link. I sent her a message on YouTube.
I'll check
the
her
funeral director, Carrie Northey, and the other one is Ask a Mortician. They are really informative on the funeral industry, which is something that's really important to know before anything, prior to anything happening, because it is a scary thing to have to deal with.
And it's one of the most expensive things you can do. Childbirth is one of the most expensive things. Owning a house and then burying somebody. So you got 3
and there you are.
You've
got this person that's just passed away, and you are forced into a financial burden that you weren't expecting.
Yeah, I was like, ugh.
And after I started getting money coming back in, one of the first things I did is went out and bought a life insurance policy for me and one for my daughter.
Yeah.
I thought there's no way that I want Anna to go through what I went through. But thank God for Tall Funeral Home. They were just amazing, worked with me and helped me with that.
Funerals are very expensive. My dad's
awful.
Funeral back in 1995 was $6,000, and it's like, oh, where's the golden goose at, y'all? Yeah. I don't have one.
It's just awful. But then I forgot Jimmy Adams, who's the coroner of Montgomery County now. He just happened to be at the funeral home the day that I went to pre-plan my funeral.
That was God sticking
there.
And
me and him said, he went through all of this stuff, what I wanted and all this stuff, and I went back and picked out the casket and all this. And then after we got all that done, me and him sat there for the longest time just talking about the Lord.
Yeah.
He's just a sweetheart.
I mean, he is. I went to school with his baby brother, but my oldest sister went to school with him, and he's like 2 years older than I am. And he is so compassionate. And
he is.
He's very helpful.
He is. I just love him to death. But we'll get off of here. I've talked her off enough. I don't know enough. Anyway, we're going to do a part 2, maybe next week?
Probably next Tuesday?
Yeah.
You want to do it for next Tuesday, about 7?
Yeah, we'll cover what we didn't this time. And we sure thank everybody for your support and watching us. And I'll have Carla and Kentucky Rangers links and Carrie Northey and Ask a Mortician. I'll have all their links on this in the description on this video.
We love everybody, and we want you to know you're not alone.
No, you're not alone.
And we love you. Much love. Come back and see us next Tuesday at 7.
Sounds like a winner. God bless you all.
God bless everybody.
Bye.